This is going to be another one of those talks that's more open-ended and spontaneous than my usual scripted and heavily edited discussions. It's because I want to address something that has come up in conversation with a lot of friends of mine and with a lot of people that I'm only acquainted with, but who are also engaged in the act of creating things. And many of them are saying some variation of the same question. They're asking, what's the point? Why should we create anything in the middle of this mess? And they will just gesture all around. You don't need me to explain what is meant by that. You can see it for yourself. And I totally get why they're in doubt about this. I totally get why they feel like so much of why anyone would want to create anything right now feels like futility. On the one hand, you have a society that feels increasingly divided against itself. And on the other hand, you have creativity being handed over at industrial scale to machines. And it begins to feel like the act of making anything just seems like to quote a movie, a stupid and futile gesture on somebody's part. And I don't believe that. I believe that making things with your own hands for the people near you or for whatever audience you can get is going to continue to be important, and it's going to be even more important in the years to come. And there are several reasons for this. And the first is what it does for us personally. It's more than just occupational therapy. It's more than just that it gives us something to do. It's that creating things and sharing them with people enriches our lives. It gives us something to bond over, to share with each other. And it's a way to drive out the ugliness. It's a way to create good, beautiful things in the world, to displace all the things that are not good and not beautiful. And we need that. And it doesn't matter how big they are. It doesn't matter how ambitious they are. It just matters that they're there and that we can point to them and say, hey, look what exists. Isn't it nice that this exists? And that's hugely important. That's a lot more important than we want to believe, I think. There's somebody that I know right now who's creating, apropos of nothing, a fanzine about Keanu Reeves. It's made out of stuff that she saved, cut out, and pasted together, and it's revolving around things like her childhood and her love of things like Bill and Ted. And it's not meant to be something that can be monetized. It's not meant to be something that would have a price tag on it or even a target audience. It's just something that's meant for her to want to exist. And that's you don't need any other reason to create something. You need no other reason to create something than to say, I want this to exist. That's the only justification you need. It doesn't matter if you want to sell it or not sell it. It doesn't matter if you want to show it to the world or put it in a closet somewhere. It doesn't matter. What matters is that you're making it and that you're putting yourself into it. And if you do share it with others, then they have something that they can enjoy too. There's another important reason to create things, which is that when you create things, you're using what you create as a way to gain perspective. There's a quote that I come back to often by Václav Havel, and he said, hope is not the same thing as optimism. It is not the certainty that everything will turn out okay, but that things will make sense regardless of how they turn out. I'm probably not getting the exact phrasing, but that's the gist of it. It's the hope that it's having faith in the idea that we will ultimately be able to put things into perspective. And that is also a lot more empowering than we would give it credit, because when we can put things into perspective, we can understand where they came from, where they may be going, and what our place in the middle of all of them is, what role we have in them. And when you make things like stories or films or just even simple YouTube videos, you can be a part of that process, even if it doesn't feel like it at that time. Because I can't count the number of times that I have talked to people who have been making something and have been saying to themselves, I don't know if this is ever going to make the slightest difference, or something along those lines. And then they'll have somebody after the fact come along and say to them, hey, I read your book, or I saw your video. And then they'll say something like, you have no idea how this was exactly what I needed to hear. This is exactly what I needed to see right now. And that matters. Even if it's only one person, even if it's only one other person, it makes a difference. I've had a lot of time to think about what matters most and whether it makes the most sense to try and reach as many people as we can, or just to reach a few people that matter, or some space in between those. And I'm starting to realize that whatever and whoever you can reach is going to be for the good. And that trying to reach as many people as possible isn't always going to be the best thing. Sometimes that can just dilute whatever it is that you're putting into what you're putting out there. Whatever you do, You want to do it sincerely. You want to do it because it comes from a place of wanting this thing, whatever it is, to exist in the world, whether for yourself or for others. And when you do that, other people pick up on that feeling. They pick up on the feeling that there's somebody else out there who gives a damn about these things, who wants to make things because they want to see a better world. It gives them hope, of the Václav Havel variety of hope. It gives them a way to make sense of their world. And a lot of times when we talk about making sense of our world, we tend to think of it in these really big, abstract, kind of philosophical terms, that we need some kind of big framework or something like that to understand everything that's going on around us. And that can be true, but at the same time, I feel like a lot of the ways that we can understand the world around us and our place in it is through these kinds of small, immediate communications, these little things that we create for each other and give to each other. And they don't even have to be physical things. They could just be a space. They could be a Discord community where people sit down and get together at the end of the day and share what's on their mind. It doesn't have to be a physical artifact. It can be an act. But what matters most is the doing of it, and not necessarily about making it into the absolute best possible thing that it could be, or the absolute most successful thing that it could be, or some variant of that. I mean, you want to absolutely take pride in what you're doing. I don't think there's any point in doing something, lazily or sloppily. But don't try to invest it with the wrong kind of ambition. Invest it with the kind of ambition that makes you happy that it exists in the world. That's the best kind. I do feel that over the next several years, there's going to be much more of an emphasis on the difference between things that were made by and for human beings and things that were made largely by and for machines of one kind or another. I get the feeling that there's going to be a much more powerful need to understand what it is that we really want from each other and what we need to give to each other. And that a lot of the artificially created content that's starting to flood the world is going to eventually turn into its own kind of death spiral. I remember reading about how Spotify, for instance, is now nudging more and more people towards channels of music that are nothing but AI-generated slop. And then I remembered another story that I heard about some guy who had created a system by which they could create these channels and then have them automatically played back by other machines and thus monetize the content for his own pocket. And I said, this is as doom loop as it gets. You're having the machines create it, you're having the machines produce it, and the machines consume it. And at the end of the day, a human being is not involved in anything except as a way to cheat. And I just don't feel like that's going to be any kind of sustainable way to have a culture, that a culture should not be and cannot be based on a system where we're just all looking for ways to rip each other off. A culture like that isn't going to go anywhere. It isn't going to produce anything. It isn't going to be anything that we're going to want to participate with. So once again, if you're thinking about making things, but at the same time you're second-guessing yourself, don't second-guess yourself. Just get in the game and start doing stuff. Don't worry too much about whether or not it's going to be successful. Don't worry too much about whether or not you're going to get it perfect. Don't even worry about whether or not there's going to be an audience. All these things can sort themselves out. What matters is that you get the gear turning. What matters is that you use this as a way to figure out what it is that you want to put into the world and how it is that you want to live in this world. That's why we do these things at the end of the day. We don't do these things just to impress each other or to make money. And that's a hill that I'm willing to die on. Okay, maybe not absolutely literally, but it is a hill I am willing to plant a flag in. Let me put it that way. So if you've been doubting yourself, if you've been wondering if this is all worth it, the short answer is yes. But you need to be the one to turn the wheel. Don't wait for somebody to come along and do it for you. Just dive in and start swimming somewhere. And you'll be shocked at what you discover along the way, even without trying to go in any one particular direction. And I say all this because I've had all of these experiences myself, and I've seen and encountered plenty of other people who have had them as well, even if they didn't recognize them at the time, even if they only recognized them in retrospect. But the first thing you absolutely have to do is get in the game, get the wheels turning, go make something. Don't wait for somebody to tell you to do it. Don't ask for permission. Just get in there and start having some fun. What else are we here for?